Hey guys, so I am going to be talking about this section of the reading, pages 280 to 335. So to start out with the overview of the chapters, this section covered most of chapter 9 and then quite a bit into chapter 10. The section starts out with Skivington noticing a man sitting on the steps outside the jail. He doesn't really know who he is. He's really dirty and rugged looking. He then notices that it's Counsel, his cousin. He kind of says to Counsel that he thought he was dead because he had heard about a child's dream and he'd heard about everybody, what he thought was everybody dying. And he offers him a place to stay in the boarding house, even though he ended up staying in the house with the Skivingtons. Then it kind of moves into Mildred really missing Augustus and how she goes to see Skivington to report Augustus, but Counsel's the only one there, so she tells him, thinking that he will relay the information to Skivington. She later learns that he never does relay that information. We then have an update on Augustus, where they're at. They are in Georgia, and how he's wanting to run away. He just wants to go home. He's missing his life and his wife and everything. Throughout the reading, we also get a more in-depth look at Moses and Caldonia's relationship. It kind of goes back and forth between Caldonia really wanting Moses and her also kind of rejecting him at the same time, especially when he asks for freedom. He kind of starts to bring that topic up and it really upsets her. A little farther along, Moses decides that his wife Priscilla and their son Jamie need to leave, basically. He wants them out of his life in order to get him one step closer to marrying Caldonia, becoming Mr. Townsend, as he says, and one step closer to freedom. He enlists Alice to go with them and tells them all that he's sending them to freedom. People then find out they're gone. Skivington comes out to the plantation and is kind of questioning people and trying to figure out, how did 3 people disappear in the night? And he ends up really believing that Moses murdered them all. He gets a very weird vibe from Moses, which is understandable because all of Moses's behaviors are sketchy as of now. We then see Skivington learn from Barnum Kinsey about Augustus being sold unlawfully by Harvey Travis and Odin Peoples. This then leads to Skivington making a real effort to not only find Augustus and get him home, but also to comfort Mildred. He puts all his time and effort into enlisting other sheriffs to help him and making sure that this man who he respects so much and who is a really important part of Manchester County, that he's brought home. Chapter 10 then starts out with the same kind of thing, Moses trying to show his dominance, really going about things the wrong way and mistreating people, being just, bossy and not using his power for good. That leads to the horrible incident of Celeste losing her baby, all because Moses demanded that she continue working, even though she wasn't feeling good, and she was only 6 months along, and she knew that she needed to take that time to help herself feel better for the baby, and he refused. The reading ends with Moses kind of in a state of depression. He skips work, he doesn't eat, and ultimately he sets off one night to who knows where. We don't fully know. So for the 3 key passages, the first one, well, it's really not a passage, it's just a sentence. So it's the law cares, Mildred. The law always cares, on page 307. So this occurs when Augustus is talking to Mildred and trying to reassure her when she feels like it doesn't matter and that there's nothing they can do, and that it's over, basically, that Augustus is never coming back. It was interesting to me because it kind of seems hypocritical, or maybe that's not the right word, maybe just untrue. It just doesn't seem like that's always the case in Manchester County. But I do applaud Skiffington for at least making that statement and for sticking to his word as of now and being a very truthful sheriff, or a devoted sheriff. The second passage is, when he started writing, there had been certainty that selling Augustus Townsend was a crime, but he became less certain not long before he had to sign his name under all the answers. Had Virginia, in fact, declared such a sale a crime? Could the cord of a man born into slavery ever be cut forever and completely, even if he had been free for some years? Was he not doomed by virtue of the color of his skin? On page 311. This passage was very powerful to me, and made me analyze things beyond this book. This is Skiffington kind of stopping in his tracks while he's trying to advocate for Augustus and get other sheriffs involved and get it out there that Augustus has been wrongfully sold. And he's kind of wondering if maybe it is okay for this to be happening to him just because of his skin color. And this kind of made me analyze the slavery system and just the mistreatment of Black people at this time. And also made me think about, now in today's world, like, are people of color doomed because of their skin color? The answer should be no. Of course not, but I don't think that's everyone's mentality even now. And it's something that those issues are still relevant today, even way past this time period. And then the third passage, he was not a good husband, but he was all she had. Some women had no husbands, or husbands off on another plantation, not right by them every night, breathing and fighting with the world in their sleep. Page 297. So I thought this passage was very telling. It kind of shows the ups and downs and kind of like the rockiness of marriages on plantations. It's sad that Priscilla feels this way about Moses, and it's sad that Moses and so many other men like him, including white men or masters, are unfaithful in their marriages. And it seems like that's a very common theme on plantations, that a lot of people were not faithful in their marriages, and a lot of people felt like they were stuck in the marriage they had, or maybe, they knew they didn't have the best marriage, but they were better off than those with no husband, basically. And then for the questions, the first question, were you surprised when Skiffington mentioned his romantic feelings for Minerva? That part kind of threw me off a little bit, when he said, like, he saw her changing, and he knew that a lot of white masters had relationships with their female slaves. Even though Minerva's not a slave, but I think it definitely surprised me. I was not expecting him to ever feel that way about Minerva. And then the second one, did you think Barnum Kinsey would ever confess to Skiffington or anyone about Augustus? Did you think that he would ever tell anyone of what really happened and how wrong it was? Or did you think he would just kind of go along with it and keep quiet in order to preserve, I don't know, just so that nothing would happen to him? But I was very happy that he did the right thing. I kind of thought he would. And then the third and final question, were you surprised at all about the way Skiffington handled Augustus being sold and the way he fought for him and cared for Mildred? Just if you were surprised that he became such a strong advocate and that he really hit the ground running and wanted to get Augustus back immediately and was really telling people how great of a man he was and how much of an asset he is to Manchester County. So yeah, I think it kind of surprised me a little bit. I didn't really expect him to care that much, but I was very glad that he did. So yeah, that is it. Thanks, you guys, for listening.